Hello and welcome back to my channel, Checks Captures Threats. And in today's episode, in episode 18, we'll be going over opening principles. So, in episode 17 we went over starting the opening. Hopefully you watched that, and all of the 4 openings we went over with how they corresponded with each other. Today we've got 25 opening principles. They go through thick and fast, so hopefully you can remember them. So let's get started now. First one. Control the centre with pawns and pieces. So I'm going to be using, most of the time we're using the Queen's Gambit here. So, obviously, with the Queen's Gambit, we have, with white, we protect both of these in the centre, and we already have a pawn here. So we already obtained 3 of those. Now, what we can do as well is using pieces as well, we can use the knight to also protect this square. So, quite an easy, simple one. It's quite obvious. Number 2. Develop knights before bishops, usually. What this means is you know really where the knights are going to go. Obviously in the Queen's Gambit we know the knights are going to go to either c3 or f3. With the bishops we don't really know because they can go to f4. Isn't the best all the time. But after we move this knight, and if they correspond with the same, then we can also now put our bishop to g5 because we know we can. So, hopefully you understand that we know exactly where the knights go most of the time unless it's in an opening, but the bishops can go wherever they can reusing the other team's pieces. Okay, number 3. Don't move the same piece twice without reason. What this means is, in this position, you've moved your knights, what you don't want to do is move it again. Now, yes, it looks good, but firstly, you're wasting tempo because they can quite literally just develop out. And also, this gives them quite the, it just get attacked quite easily, bringing the knight out, for example. So, we want to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay. Number 4, avoid unnecessary pawn moves early. So what we're talking about here is some moves that are like, we don't want to be pushing after, let's say we put the bishop here, and they bring the knight out, or even bishop here. We don't want to play this pawn move. We don't want to play b4. There's no use of it. It's just not going to work. So let's not develop your pieces in the opening. Let's not get rid of these pawns, especially on the edge of the board. So let's not do that. Castle early for king safety. So obviously here, what this is how, look at this. Very symmetrical position with the pieces. Each team have castled quickly. They've got a very solid development, and the king is very safe. That's what you need in an opening. 6. Don't bring your queen out too early. So obviously, there is no right or wrong when early specifies, but I'm saying like right now, if there's a check, don't do it, because you waste the tempo and you have to move back, and they just get 2 pieces out combined to your 1 that you've got, and that's your queen. So it's not very good at all. Make sure the queen is one of the last pieces you want to get out unless you're using theory. Okay. 7. Connect your rooks by clearing the back rank. So what this means is if we get all our pieces out, so here we go, just make a load of moves. Then, sorry, there's going to be a few moves. Quite a normal opening as well, this sort of thing. This is what you'll see a lot. And I'll show it through white here. As we see here, both the rooks protect each other, and what this can be used is they can kind of protect each other going to these middle ranks, or even like c1 here, which is quite useful. Okay. Develop all pieces before launching attacks. So again, in this scenario, we've developed everything. Now we can start thinking, because we're going into the middle game, we can now start thinking where to put our attacks. So obviously we know we can get the knight in here. Soon we might be able to capture and push e4. There's other plans for later on as well. Okay. Don't chase minor threats if it delays development. So, obviously, using the Queen's Gambit, now accepted. This is where, when you play a move, let's just say we play e3, and they play something like b5. It's going to protect the pawn. They might keep the pawn. It's not very good. It gives white all the development they need, and if they really try and protect it here by going something like this, they've moved 2 pawns and let us have already at least some sort of development. You know, we've already got these two out, and their pawns just aren't looking too good. So, as black, if you're all white, make sure you don't waste too many pawn moves, especially, or too many piece moves just for something like a pawn. Avoid blocking your central pawns with pieces is number 10. So what this means is quite simple stuff. Don't put your bishop for something like here. You're blocking your pawn. You never want this. It will spend another move trying to move out of the way because you've dislodged your bishop, and they can freely take this really now. So you do not want that. Okay. Move pawns that open lines for your bishop. So obviously, as we see here, this d4 moves out this bishop. And what we can do is soon Frenchetto, getting this bishop out, either way. So either getting your bishops out by moving the centre pawns, or even these flank pawns, we call them. Okay. Right. 12. Don't castle into an immediate pawn storm. So what we're trying to get across here is how, after here, we're going to show you now that with castle queenside for black, of how these pawn structure is going to end up. Let's move the queen here. Let's just do this. So here we go, castle queenside. Looking at the pawns here, comparing the queen side, so everywhere from this queen to the rook, this is what we call the queen side, compared to the king side. As you see, all the pawns are on the queen side attacking. And the worst thing is because it's the pawns attacking the king side, the only things that really should be able to capture it are other pawns, which are protecting the king. So this will ruin the king's safety. So if you castle, make sure that they've not got the pawn attack already. If they're going to create one after you castle, you can probably stop that, hopefully. Okay. Right. 13. Place knights towards the centre, not the edge. So what this means is our classic saying, knight on the rim is dim. So here, obviously, all of the, what we're trying to get here is the knight has so much more potential in the middle compared to the edge. Don't get me wrong, knight on the rim might not always be dim. There is chance that it can work in some scenarios, but 99% of the time it will not be good. 14. Avoid early flank pawn pushes unless theory. So what we're trying to say here is, you know, straight away, you don't want to be pushing g4. It's not good. You know, it just doesn't look nice. You can't castle now, really, because it just ruins your pawn structure of it all and your safety of it. And it just doesn't look too good, you know, with all of those pawns here. So we do not want to be pushing that. Getting the pieces out is the main thing. 15. Openings are about piece activity, not pawn grabbing. So if black sees a pawn and takes it, he's not really following so much opening principle. If he knows the theory behind it, fair play. But, you know, maybe he's just saying it's a free pawn, really. But using what we know is we can develop quite quickly. So you can get this knight out here, getting this knight, the bishop's coming out. So we know what to do, whereas black seems to be just getting pawns for the fun of it. 16. Don't sacrifice material without compensation. What this means is just don't sacrifice like a bishop for something that isn't going to help. So remembering from one of the recent episodes where we had the sacrifice with how to attack, then it was quite a defensive thing as well. We was able to open up the king's safety, so stuff like that. You want to get those two pawns for a bishop, that's fine, that's compensation because you open up the king. But, you know, if you're just taking a pawn, it's not really that, and you lose it, you're 2 points down, it's not the best. Okay. 17. In gambits, seek rapid development. This isn't really a gambit, technically, but it still is the queen's gambit. So what we're seeing here is, you see how quickly we're all able to develop their pieces. You know, not really any sort of struggle, which is good. And within 8 moves, everyone's developed. So it's quite good. Obviously, there is some cases which rapid development is always not needed, but most likely gambits, you want to seek that safety and make sure you're comfortable in your position. Okay, 18. In symmetrical positions, look for pawn breaks. So straight away in the Queen's Gambit, symmetrical d4 and d5 push. Then c4 is where we can use the pawn break already, trying to break into this stuck in position. So we can always see that. Remember in the French advanced, if we go through here, where it's not really too symmetrical, but it's got that symmetrical pawn structure, c5. That's the pawn break we use here for this pawn. So remembering that we can use all of those to try and break into their structure. Okay. 19. Remember, opening traps often backfire. Now, what this is, Scholar's Mate, if we go through that, obviously here, if they try something like this, we're able to push. Make sure your knight's protecting this pawn, otherwise, as I'll show you here, let's just say they did another bishop move here, and if we did protect it here, there is a trap here that they win the rook. So making sure you bring the knight out, and if they do this, you're able to do this, as what this shows here is he has to go back, it wastes it, and if he tries again, we can now develop. So in the end, they've wasted so many moves, we're now able to Frenchetto and everything as black. So don't do the Scholar's Mate, 9 times out of 10 is never going to work. Right. 20. A tempo in the opening can be decisive. So, if you ever have, in the Queen's Gambit, let's say that they you bring a knight out, and they do something like, they bring this knight out, trying to get here. Look at, that's already wasted so many moves that we've been able to get 3 pieces out to his 1. And then now looking at this, only so many moves in, this is the 8th move, and we look much better. So, okay. 21. Study common openings you play. So obviously we're going over the Learn the Openings playlist, so I'll be giving as many of the most common openings at the minute. That's what I'll be trying to do. Hopefully later on in the series we'll be able to do some more vague ones that, you know, might catch people off guard and you might want to play once, you know, in a blue moon or something. So it's always quite fun to play some different openings as well. Understand ideas, not just memorization. So even if you are good at memorization, it still helps. It's just as long as you understand what's going on by the meaning of a pawn break, you don't want to see a position in that French advanced and realise, oh, okay, that's what it is, and then you don't know how to use that in another opening. So you've got to know what it means. 23. Always ask, what is my opponent threatening? So using my channel, checks, captures, threats, you want to look at the threats in some of them. So there'll be a video on that as well soon, which we're going over how that works. 24. Develop with threats when possible. So remembering how we get this knight out and then we can get the pin straight away, because that always will dislodge this knight. You know, it can't really move. It kind of forces a like bishop move, which kind of just wastes tempo as well. And last but not least, 25. Finish development before moving pawns excessively. So here, as we see here, what we can do is now everyone's developed, these sort of pawn pushes can happen like this, for example. So making sure you understand that you want to develop first, especially as well when you mean by, you know, excessive pawn moves. We don't want to be, you know, moving this, for example, all the way up here, you know, ruining the king structure. They kind of mean the other side of the board. That is all for today. Hope you understand the 25 opening principles. So thank you and bye bye.